Hello, Dr. Woodwind. This is my third playing video of this semester. Just want to start off with saying that first off, I'm gonna do some long tones at 80 beats per minute. Then I'm gonna move into the long jingle bells, 4 tunes of my own, then one of my own. But right now, I'm gonna start with just some long tones at 80 beats per minute. And before I start that, I want to talk about my stand height. I want my stand height to be pretty much eye level, so that way students are able to look at me and the music, and also it helps with better posture and making sure they sit on the edge of their chairs. Probably start off with that, just double check their head, how are you sitting? Just a little reminder once you kind of have them in a kind of a system and a routine of sitting up in their chairs and having good posture. So right now I'm going to do some long tones at 80 beats per minute. And I'm just going to go up the scale. So, what I did there was I tried to go up the scale, but the high A and the high B flat weren't coming out, and I think to fix that, I would just push faster air and make sure the fluting was right, make sure the air I'm blowing is the correct air, make sure my angle is correct, also make sure the amount of air I'm putting, the angle, and the air that I'm putting is all equal to what I need to make those notes happen on the instrument. Another thing I would do, just having my beginners start, I would check their head joint as when they're putting it in the flute, and I would just kind of make sure the head joint is where it needs to be for the individual player. About a fingernail's width out, about half of that. So, but while I was doing that, I know I most likely have other sections, like a whole woodwind class, for instance. I maybe have to say, okay, clarinet, saxes, and oboes, you're gonna do number 42, and while they're playing that, I'm gonna check head joints and so on and so on to make sure that's all in the right place. What I would also do is that at the beginning of class, little exercises of the 1 ups, 2 ups, 3 ups. So it'd be there we go, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2s. 2 3s and the 1 2 3s, and I gotta make sure that pinkies stay on the entire time because the pinkies don't need to move except when you're doing the pinkies up, and I'll just make sure that their finger not coming off of the flute itself. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play Jingle Bells, and before we do that, before I would have my kids play this, what I would do is I would more than likely scaffold it. So I mean, in the exercises that we do in the beginning of class, of just getting them to play it together and listening, I would do some score studying, and I would look and see, okay, what are some weird things that flutes are doing specifically, like the B flat to G in measure 4. That's a lot of fingers, and that's a big jump, and it most likely scare them at first. But I think if you put an exercise and just like solidify it and separate it from everything else will be fine. The C to D transition, I'd also check that, and D's and C's, and just do some whole steps like that and going up. But I would also say, hey, let's do D to C a couple of times. Um, I would have them take all breath marks and make sure I would have them take all breath marks just to get them reading the music and stuff like that. And then also, as for the divisi that the flutes have, that's normal for flute music, so I wouldn't be too concerned with it. Only thing I would have to do is I'd make sure to separate it by like, okay, first row of flutes, you play the top part, second row, you play the bottom part, and then I'd swap it. That way they both get experience playing the other part. Yeah, so that's kind of how I would scaffold that into a lesson for the kids. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Jingle Bells. Getting starting position. And 5. Okay, so I know that in the last measure of Jingle Bells, what I would do is I would just have them hold that last note out for 4, just getting them in together, making sure they freeze so I can take a peek at what they're doing with their faces and their horn angles and things of that nature. Now, if that was the first way my kids played it, I would be happy with that because, I mean, overall, they did play. They would have played the right notes. You know, would have done a lot of other good things, such as pushing through the ends of phrases, stuff like that. The jumps weren't an issue for me, obviously, because I'm older. But for the kids, if they got it, I'd be super happy with that. And it would just show me that I scaffolded it correctly so that my kids could be successful. So some things that I would do is I would go through it a couple times. Like, hey, this time I'm looking for making sure hands in the correct position for the flutes, or I'm looking for this thing musically. And you don't want to overload the kids, because if you overload them with things you're looking for, they're going to be thinking about it way too much. So you want to do things one at a time. So if I said, let's add some more musicality, which, I mean, musicality can be measured in different ways, but I feel like if you let kids kind of explore on their own musicality, they kind of find their way a little bit. But also, it's good to kind of give them a, hey, crescendo this, or hey, push the end of phrases, or add some dynamics here. And I think that would be really, really good to do. So I'm going to do it again as if I were a beginner, but this time I'm going to be like, okay, I'm looking for more musicality. So this is me adding musicality to the piece. So there, if you were able to tell, just musically, I'm push to the end of some of the phrases. I made the big leaps really bigger. Anytime I had a scale that was going down, I wanted to make sure that the notes crescendoed as I went down, because obviously the lower the harder it is to kind of hear. So you want to make sure that each of those quarter notes sound the exact same, even if it's going down the scale, no matter what range it's in. And that'd be one way of teaching the piece a way that is musical, but they also learn something in the same time. And scaffolding it correctly, like, okay, first time, the notes are all there, that's fine, rhythm's all there, that's perfectly fine, but this time you had something different. And I think that's a good way to start things out. Okay, so as for my 4 pieces, I'm gonna play Merrily We Roll Along. And there's not going to be any type of teaching in this one. Only thing I'm going to do is try to add musicality, push faster air, make sure my head joint isn't correctly, but I mean, yes, that. But also what you want to make sure you do is make sure that each note speaks when you want it to speak, and your fingers go down at the same time as your air is moving. So, Merrily Roll Along. And I want to add some musicality by playing with the dynamics a little bit and giving more importance to some of the phrases. Like the first time I went through, I crescendoed the half note in the last measure, but on the second time I went through, I did crescendo because it was the end of the piece. So I think little things like that can make the music a lot more interesting, especially for the kids. So I'm going to play number 25. All right. And the second time was better because I did a lot more musically. Yeah. And also I made sure that all of my notes spoke when they wanted to, even when they stopped coming out for as quick second there. I did it until it did stop, and I didn't just give up, and I continued through. So I think that's a good thing too, is to make sure, when you're first starting an instrument, you don't just stop when you mess up, you just keep going until you make those little adjustments to make things better. Okay, so now I'm gonna play Jolly Old St. Nicholas, the top one. Actually, I need to B. I like B better. All right. So, interesting thing with number 32, it's a duet, so I would have to stop and explain it to the kids, obviously. Also, they've seen it from outer, but I'd also just point it out just because it's a musical marking. What I most likely do is like, okay, who wants to play A as a solo? And I would make whoever did that, not make, but ask or have them volunteer to play A while everybody's play B. And I think, maybe have them standing in front of class and stuff like that. One, teaches performance because they're performing in front of people, and that's just something that the more you do it, it'll get better. And I think that's something that kids miss out on at a younger age, but I feel like we can incorporate that in various ways.